Hi everyone, my name is Felipa, and this is day 59 of 365 days with my annual year-long reading plan to complete this Bible. So today, yesterday, I guess, we filled on, or left on, not filled on, left on Samuel killing Agag, the king of the Amalekites, and then basically Saul being told he is not a man of God anymore, and it says Samuel hewed Agag in pieces before the Lord in Gilgal. And Samuel went up to Ramah, and Saul went up to his house in Gibeah of Saul. And Samuel came no more to see Saul until the day of his death. And he mourned for Saul, and the Lord repented. He made Saul king over Israel. So starting today, day 59, we're chapter 16, still in the book of Samuel. Samuel is sent by God to Bethlehem. And so Samuel goes there, and the Lord says there's going to be another chosen prophet in the place of Saul. But Samuel says, how can I go? If Saul hears this, he will kill me. And the Lord says, take a heifer with you and say that you're there to make a sacrifice to the Lord. And he calls Jesse, so another Bethlehemite, to the ceremony. And he says, I come in peace. And Samuel thinks he knows who's going to be chosen to be king, but the Lord says, in verse 7 says, but the Lord said unto Samuel, look not on his countenance or on the height of his stature, because I have refused him. For the Lord seeth not as man seeth, for man looketh on the outward appearance, but the Lord looketh on the heart. So he's saying, Samuel, don't worry about it. Like, I know you think that you know who's going to be chosen based on, maybe how they're acting in the nation, in the tribes, and within their common people, what the height of their stature is, but that's not what I'm looking for. I see what you don't see. I look and I see what's in their heart. And so they call Jesse, and he presents all his sons, but Samuel and the Lord says, no, none of these are them. And then Samuel says, are these all your children? And he says, well, I do have the youngest, and he's tending to the sheep. And Samuel tells him, go and fetch him, and he brings them. And it says, and now he was ruddy and withal of a beautiful countenance and goodly to look to. And the Lord said, arise, anoint him, for this is he. So Samuel takes the horn of oil, anoints him, and now the Spirit of the Lord comes upon David. This is the youngest son, David. And really interesting here in verse 14, it says, but the Spirit of the Lord departed from Saul, and an evil spirit from the Lord troubled him. So very interesting, because it says, but the Spirit, it's the Spirit of the Lord. We're using the word the, meaning like almost like the only one, a singularity, and spirit is in capital letters, spirit. So the Spirit of the Lord, so something very sacred and one of, departed from Saul. And then we have, and an evil spirit, and it says an evil, so one of the evils, so one of many. And evil is, of course, spelt with a lowercase letter. So we have the Spirit of the Lord and one of these evil spirits, which don't even deserve a capital letter, troubling Saul. So I wrote on here, I wonder what these evil spirits are that are troubling Saul. Are they anger, jealousy, regret, fear, spite? Because remember, he didn't listen to God's commandments, and God said, you're not a man of God. And so they choose David, and on we go. And so there's a preparation for the armies of Israelites to fight the Philistines once again. Kind of a story as old as time. We keep seeing this pattern. And there comes out a champion out of the camp of the Philistines named Goliath of Gath. And it says he's this huge man. It talks about him having a massive helmet of brass, how he's armed with a coat of mail. The weight of his coat is 5,000 shekels of brass. He has like all this huge equipment on him. The staff of his spear was like a weaver's beam, and his spear's head weighed 600 shekels of iron. So this massive man challenges Israel and says, send one of your men to fight, and if you guys win, we'll be your servants, and vice versa. But David ends up essentially, very long story short, he comes down into the army. He was out with his dad tending to the sheep. He comes to the army, and at first Saul's his brothers who are in this battle, they're kind of concerned for him, and they're like, what are you doing here? You just came here to see the fight. And he hears the story of Goliath and this challenge, And all of the men of Israel are like scared scared straight, and they do not want to mess with him. So he essentially says to them, he says in here in chapter 17, verse 26, it says, "And David spake to the men that stood by him, saying, What shall be done to the man that killeth this Philistine, and taketh away the reproach from Israel? For who is this uncircumcised Philistine that he should defy the armies of the living God?" So he's kind of questioning, like, are you guys seriously scared of this guy when he doesn't have the faith of God behind him? And so we end up in this part where basically David continues to speak to all of the men. He keeps saying that, they shouldn't let this get to them. They're men of God. And he ends up speaking to David saying, I'm going to fight this Goliath. And Saul says, like, you're just like a baby. You're a youth. He's a man of war. And David says that when he was tending to his father's sheep, there was a lion and a bear that took a lamb out of the flock, and that David went after them, and he delivered them out of the mouth, and arose and caught them by his beard and smote him and slew him. So he killed both the lion and the bear. And he says, there's no way that this guy is going to win me. So Saul gives him basically armor. But as soon as David puts it on, he says, no, I didn't earn this. I didn't earn this armor. I didn't earn this sword. And he takes it off him. And he takes 5 smooth stones out of a brook, puts them in a shepherd's bag, and he has a sling in his hand. And then we have Goliath essentially challenge David, and he kind of mocks him and says, like, this is hilarious. You're this tiny little baby thing. What are you going to do? And basically he charges at David, and David says, and verse 49, it says, "And David put his hand in his bag and took thence a stone and slang it and smote the Philistine in his forehead, that the stone sunk into his forehead, and he fell upon his face to the earth." And then all the men of Israel shout, they're excited. They go on to pursue the Philistines and, of course, kill everybody possible. And here we just have a confirmation that this is David, the son of Jesse. And it says, David answered, "I am the son of thy servant Jesse, the Bethlehemite." And this is where we end this section, the kind of infamous story of Goliath and David and Goliath. And tomorrow is day 60. I'm on chapter 18, the friendship of Jonathan and David, and I will let you know what I learned then. So this is it for today. Thank you for listening. Appreciate all your comments.